You know, and then like Sister Barbara said, and if you got to wait at the door, that's hard. I know it's hard. And then getting in, and we have our spots. This is my pew. We have some sections that the whole family sits right there. That's our family section. And we have to just be welcoming if somebody comes, you know, for the first time. Say, we're going to slide in and help them. Help them navigate the service. Help them navigate the bulletin. We're going to stand now. We stand up at this time. Show them in the bulletin. We're going to sit down right here. No, you can't walk out right now. Just wait until the offering and you can go to the ladies' room, or wait till, you know, that kind of stuff. Help people who are worshiping with us. Be friendly, shake their hands. When we do shake hands with the visitor, shake their hands. Make sure you go to somebody that you don't know. Because we like to hug the folk we know. We go to our people and get our hug from our people. Or, what are we doing? We're selling tickets. I got some tickets right here. Rev, I need you to buy a ticket for our program. I'll see you after church. I need you to buy a ticket for my stuff. Or we're going to meet after, we're going to dinner after church. We're going to meet you at Lily's. We do all of that. And when the visitors are sitting there just looking around, we need to welcome folk through the whole service. And some things that we did reinstitute are visitor packets, so we're doing that again, because you have to give them some literature. Folks ought to know, what is the church about? What are some of the ministries of the church? And when do things happen? When people join the church, allow them to know that you can come to any meeting, be a part of any organization, and this is when the meetings in the organizations happen. Make sure that they feel welcome in the church, because some churches don't want to grow. We say we do, but we really don't, because we run the people out. Do we check on them after they join the church? Call them after 1 week and say, we just want to welcome you to our church. Our folks get a letter, welcome to the church. But make sure that we follow up, making sure someone that teaches new members class contacts them. The other real deal is that folks, they join the church off of emotion. And so, you know, if Rev preached a good message and they walk down and join the church, well, afterwards, they think about it. And they have to make a decision, do I really want to not go to that church, but go to church, period? What did I just do? I'm not sure if I want to do that. I don't know whether I want to make that commitment with my life. And not realizing it's not that big a commitment in terms of that much of a change in life. All you're doing is now you have a church home. We're not asking anybody to give up everything that they're doing in life, but you let the Lord work on you. We're not working on anybody telling them you can't do this, that, and the other. That's for God to do. And so some people, they give you the wrong telephone number. They give you the wrong address, the wrong email address. You call them. As soon as they join the church, we send a letter out the next day, and the letter will come back by Friday. Wrong address. We call them. That's the wrong telephone number. Sometimes they'll give you one number off. So you got to try to figure out, well, what's the wrong number? All of that kind of stuff. And that's because they join off of emotion. And they don't know us really from Adam. Case in point, we had some persons that joined our church. But they were invited to go across the street. Came to us and loved the service and joined the church. Gave their lives to the Lord, went home, and the people told them, oh, you went to the wrong church. You need to come over here. And they came back and told us, I love Bethel, but my family told me I need to go over here. And so you also have competition with other churches. And that's real, of getting people to come in. And so we have to ask, do we want to grow? If we do, how are we open to new members? Secondly, are we prepared to receive new converts when they come in? When they join, what do we do with them? If they're a new convert, do we hug them and let them know it's going to be all right, or assign them? I mean, we assign class leaders, but when do we assign a class leader? After the right hand of fellowship. What do you do with them for the 12 weeks that they're on probation? All right, so someone in the lay organization, commission on membership and evangelism is supposed to contact them, and I'm hearing other folks saying no. No. So what happens is you have somebody that joins the church and they're by themselves for 12 weeks until a class leader is assigned to them. And sometimes they don't make the 12 weeks. Because what happens if we don't have a new member cycle during that time? Then they're just out there. They're out there. And so if you look at, and since we're having a real talk, if you look at the numbers that we report joining the church at annual conference, and then look at the number who have received the right hand of fellowship, it's 1/3. We'll report 60, 75 people in a year will join this church. Right hand of fellowship, you're lucky if you get 20. To complete new members class, right hand of fellowship, and embrace the church. Usually, families who are in their 40s are the ones that come back to church because they want their children to be raised in the church. But you miss that 21 or 18 to 40. They're gone because they're out there and they are trying to establish themselves. And those young people, as they're establishing themselves, what do? They buy nice cars, they buy nice houses, and they have mortgages that are too high, they have car payments that are too high, and they don't have the resources to pay the requirements of the local church. Just real talk. But then when the child when they have babies, and grandma says, baby needs to be in church. If grandma doesn't bring the child, or they now say, okay, let me look for a church, they come to a church that they feel best fits their need. And so the issue now is the consumer church versus the missional church. It's our next section. The consumer church. There are two types of church. Consumer church is the church is seen as a dispenser of religious goods and services. People come to church to be fed, to have their needs met through the quality programs, to have the professionals teach their children about God. So the person that's a consumer churchgoer, I go to church so that the church professionals will teach my children about God, and the church professionals give me goods. I'm fed at church, and I come to church to have my needs met through quality programs. So the consumer church is the church that has programs. They have a lot of programs to meet the needs of the congregation. And people say, I go there to be fed. And I go there to have my needs met. And so the church has to be on a professional level to give the services and the goods that the person wants. Most young adults in that 18 to 40 category, they're looking for a consumer church. Why? Because they want the church that has the biggest bang for their buck. I give you tithes. I need you to programs. I want you to have programs. I want you to have great youth ministries. I want you to have great daycare. I want you to have after school. I need you to have senior ministry because I'm a consumer. Think about it now. As a consumer, when you go to the store you go to is based on what you can get out of the store for your dollar. And so, you know, it's a consumer world that we're living in. The other church is the missional church. Let's look at their definition. The missional church says, I don't go to church, I am the church. The missional church is a body of people sent on a mission who gather in community to worship. Community, encouragement, and teaching from the Word in addition to what they are self-feeding themselves through the week. So the missional church, people who are missional, they're not necessarily concerned with the building. They're not concerned with where we worship. They're concerned with the fact that we do worship, but they are able to feed themselves through the week, through what they do. And so all of their programs are centered around themselves. And they are all right with not going out because everything they do is for themselves. Does that, I hope I'm clear with this.
Yes, you are.
So we have to, I believe, combine the missional and the consumer. Because you don't want to be all program driven, nor do you want to be the missional where our mission is to educate. But we educate ourselves and we don't have to deal with anybody in the community, any other church. See, the missional church, they don't care about the church across the street, the church next door. They don't care about what's going on in the community because they are a community unto themselves. Yes, ma'am.
What I struggle with is we could go through each stage.
Yes.
The church can be like a consumer church.
Absolutely.
And the other side, we could be, I feel like we are the church. So
yes.
it moves to me.
Absolutely. And so for me, and I agree with you, I think that the best of both worlds is you have to be both. You have to, and I believe the black church particularly, but any church needs to be able to operate through great programming, because if you don't program, you're going to miss a category of people. You have to say, what is the program for Christian education? What's the program for church school? What is our building and maintenance program going to be? Make sure that you have a calendar year that we can look at. And that's what we do. I mean, we are consumer in the sense that you saw we have a church conference. We were able to look at everybody's program for the year and everything is on the schedule. We program out everything. But then we also make sure that we are the church and we take care of our own. When you are part of this church community, we take care of our own. Bethel goes to the hospital and sees Bethel's members. Bethel will make sure that the sick are cared for. We take care of those who are part of us, but we can't just only take care of our own. We have to make sure our mission is to go outside of the walls as well. So part of the mission has to be, we're going to go outside of the walls, but because of who we are, the best way we do that is through programming. So it's the best of both worlds. So the church And you can take a look at our church, but also take a look at other churches in the community. And I guarantee you, you'll be able to put names of churches under these categories. What do they do? Are they a consumer church? Are they a missional church? I had a very long conversation with one of my fraternal brothers. And when I was talking with them, they told me that they moved their membership from the church that I knew that they went to all of their life growing up. I was a member here, they were a member of another church. And I asked them, why did they change their membership? And he told me, because, and his exact words were, because I get more bang for my buck over there. Consumer church. What did that mean? What that meant was, as a young adult raising a family, that church had everything on the list that he could check off that he felt he needed for church. And so they shifted their membership, but you got to ask yourself, what are things that are important to you? Is it important that you know who your pastor is? Is it important that the pastor knows who you are? Is it important that if you're sick, somebody comes to visit you? See, some people, they don't need that. They don't want that. They want to be able to go to church, hear a word, and be a part of some organization, but that's all they need. They don't need to know, pastor knows my name, pastor knows who I am and my family. There are other people, they need to know. If I'm sick, I need to know that my pastor knows who I am. At least my pastor or someone from the ministerial staff will come and see me. That's why some churches will only grow to a certain place. Others will expand and go and grow and grow. So you got to ask yourself, what is important to you? And some churches, some people, they want to be a part of the church that they can say, my church has given $50,000 to some place in Haiti. But because of the size of the church, you can give that sizable donation, and you just give your dollar, but you know your church is able to do all of this. So, it's what people want and what they're used to. And believe it or not, there are some people who they want to run their church off of the fish and chicken dinner sales. This is real, because they're in the kitchen and they're in control. They're in control. They raise that money. They work like a slave. They can get to complain about it. They're in control of the whole thing. And they're in control of how it goes. That's what they like. Some people like to be in the very small family church. Some like the middle-sized church. And some like the big mega church. So let me give you some factual information here, and we're going to move on to this last little section, because I'm almost done. And factual information is that in the United States of America, 80% of churches' membership is less than 200. Wow. 80% of churches in the United States of America are less than 200. And 200 is 200 on the roll. On the roll, 200. A mega church is a church whose membership is more than 1,000 members and raises more than $1 million annually. And so, in reality, when you look at it, most churches in America are small, family-sized churches. A family church is considered a church that is run and operated by 3 families or more. And most churches are started by 3 families or more. So I want you to think about some of the churches that you know. Think about Bethel Church. We have a large membership, but if you let your mind go back, those of us who have been here for several years, you know that certain families founded and established our church congregation. Most churches also are migrant churches, meaning that the majority of the members were from a certain place and moved and relocated to a certain area and formed a congregation. And so when you go to that church, that helps to identify the culture of the congregation. If you ask yourself, Bethel Church in Bloomfield, the majority of the founding population of our congregation is from where?
The South.
The South, but in particular, Georgia.
Georgia.
Georgia. Georgia.
Georgia.
Starting a fire, then
Well, I'm being honest. You say I started something, but I'm being real. I'm talking about the founding members. Majority are from. My family's from Virginia. I know it's not Virginia. I know Brother Bagwell's right there, but it's not Virginia. It is Georgia. The majority of the founding members. Now, they come up, they establish a congregation. Because they were from Georgia and had a southern flavor, other southern families joined the congregation who wanted a Methodist flavor. And so our church has members, and we know when we do that state rally, we got the southern states, and we like to play around with it, but the reality is you got the Deep South, the Mid-South, and now we have a large population of members who are from the Caribbean islands. And that's wonderful, but that's the culture of our congregation. We don't have a large population of people from the Midwest or from all the way out West California. And so that impacts the worship and the worship flavor of the local church. And when you start looking at what you offer in our church, we have to make sure that our church is a very family-friendly congregation because we have southern roots. And so we like it in a southern way. We make sure we like to eat around here. We have food for everything. We do. In the 10 months that I've been here, I know I gained 25 pounds. 25 pounds. I put myself on a program because of all of the food that we like to eat. Not only do we like to eat it, but we like to share it. I have more pies, cakes, dropped off, food, everything is given. Pastor, I made this just for you. And I dare not insult you by not tasting and eating it. But at the same time, it's the culture of who we are. So most churches, you have to identify the culture of your church. Know where are the people from? What are people looking for when they come to the church? And that helps to shape, once you identify that. So if you look at us, we have a large membership. Even if you say, we know we have on our roll the crazy number of 1,109, or it's over 1,100 members. Over 1,100 members. But if you ask yourself, we know we print 300 bulletins every Sunday. Yes, we do. We print 300 bulletins every Sunday. Our average attendance is at least 250 to 300. On the first Sunday, it's over 300 people that come to church. The average attendance of your membership is 1/3 your membership. So if your membership is 1,000, you should see 300. If your membership is 500, then you should see a little less than 100 people. Or about 125 people coming to church. That's how the standard is. And this is proved. This is proven. So when you talk about evangelism, you know, people like to say, oh, the folks don't come to church. It's 1/3 of your active membership is your total congregation. Out of that 1/3, you have then 25% are the ones that are carrying the cost of the tithes and the offerings. So you have less than 1/4 of your membership is paying for the upbuilding, the upkeep of the local congregation. And so you have to have workers and you have to have people coming in all the time. Because what tends to happen, and I'm going to really get in trouble now, what tends to happen is a local congregation ages with the pastor. So that the age of the pastor tends to be the age group that comes into a local congregation. As the congregation ages, as the pastor ages, if you have a more senior congregation and the pastor is senior, you have to have programs that are going to bring in younger people. Otherwise, your church will end up becoming a smaller congregation simply by the fact that people go home to be with the Lord. Or they retire and move south. And so you have to have those programs to bring in the congregation. If you say, we don't want to grow, but the church ages with the pastor, and the pastor retires and the church is in their 80s and 90s, then the church will eventually die out. We have one church right now, Bethel Greenwich. Reverend Judy's here, Reverend Hendricks here. The average age of Bethel Greenwich, what would you say it is? Sister Mosby said 75. Sister Diane said 80. The average age of the person going to Bethel Greenwich is 85 years old. They have 10 members. The vice chair of the steward board is 93 years old.
Wow.
That's right. They got 2.
93 years old. They have 10 members. There is nobody in the church under 65 years old. And that's the pastor. So if we don't do something as a New England conference, in the next 10 years, that church is closing down. And that church still has a parsonage they got to maintain, assessments they have to raise. How can you raise an assessment when you, the vice chair, are 93 years old? And praise God for her. But what are they doing? They are literally struggling. They have a little chicken dinner, fish fry, and then they try to have Bethel Bloomfield come and give them a service, Bethel Bridgeport go and give them a service, Bethel Stanford go and give them a service. That's how they got to operate. Because of the aging out issue. Yes, ma'am. That's all right.
That's one church, I know there's one in Cape May like that too.
Yeah.
Why don't they combine with Stanford?
Okay.
Stanford is not doing that great.
Amen. But what we know is this. We have a committee that is now called the Committee on Missions and New Works. We have an actual committee in the annual conference called Committee on Missions and New Works. And that committee is supposed to review the status of the local churches in the annual conference. We have here, and this is, I'm going back to now this AME fact stuff. We have 23 churches in the New England Annual Conference. Our churches are ranked into classes. So you're either a class A, B, C, or D church. Your class rank is determined on the education of your pastor. So if your pastor has a master's degree, you automatically become a class A church. Also, if you pay your pastor more than $20,000 a year, you are a Class A church. But $20,000 is really not a whole lot of money. But that is according to the discipline of the church. So Class A is more than $20,000 a year. And also, if your pastor has been a pastor for more than 5 years, that church becomes a Class A church. And so, Class A is the top level church. That's like a full-time pastor's Class A. If your pastor works another job, part-time, you become a Class B church. Because that means you are not a church that supports a full-time ministry. Now you can have a whole lot of members, but if you are not paying your pastor, if you don't have a parsonage, you are a Class B church. So that's A, B. Class C has its requirements. Class D is the churches that are paying less than $5,000 a year for a pastor. But $5,000 a year is like those churches that are paying, and there are churches pay the pastor $100 a week.
What? AME church?
Yes. St. James and Danbury. Greenwich. Greenwich has a parsonage, so they lift it a little higher, but St. James and Danbury, there's no pastor. The pastor drives out, and they have service, maybe have Bible study, and they do everything on Sunday, that's it. There are a lot of churches in the AME church. See, the thing that happens with us is, in the New England Conference, we get spoiled because our top 8 churches are all Class A. And as you drive up